But this is Undeath. At the end of the day, they are here to flatten your fucking head. Hey there guys, welcome back and hello if you are new. So, another dose of death metal for you guys today. I am going to be talking about a band that I think are actually one of the best sort of up and coming death metal bands that have literally had a meteoric rise to fame, releasing their first album Legions of a Different Kind in 2020. It was the first time I'd heard of them. You know, they were a brand new signing for Prosthetic. Undeath have slowly but surely, well actually not really slowly but surely, very quickly been making a name for themselves. And in 2022 they released It's Time to Rise from the Grave, their sophomore record. And now in 2024 we have their third full-length album under the name of More Insane. So if you're not familiar with Undeath, they are some of the brightest sparks in death metal. They combine, you know, the sort of brutality of Cannibal Corpse with a bit more of there's a bit of a barbarity kind of, you know, obituary style to them, maybe a bit of bolt thrower as well. This record is, you know, I would say probably the best record that the band have put out, like by a mile. You know, they combine brilliant songwriting, razor sharp riffing, and in particular I think the lyrical content on this record is really, really strong. In terms of themes, it's very much kind of in keeping with classic death metal. We've got Disputatious Malignancy, which is about, I think, brain-eating worms. Sutured for War is about basically sewing different parts of people's limbs to create this sort of like big Frankenstein's monster. And then you've got Bones Clattering in the Cave, which is good old cannibalism. But then there's also a healthy dose of fantasy, which, as we know previously, the band are big fans of Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and things like that. A game which I actually have in my cabinet in there, but I haven't played yet. So if you guys recommend it, let me know in the comments underneath me, because I definitely want to give it a go. And I've heard it's like super, super gory. I'll have to check it out after this video. Anyway, I think probably the biggest thing that stood out for me on this record is Alex's performance. His performance is absolutely fantastic. This is the best vocal performance he's ever delivered. I think the lyrics are far and away the best that they've been. I think the way that, you know, his vocabulary has kind of increased. I also think it's absolutely insane that he's able to put disattachment of a prophylactic in the brain. I can barely even say it, and the guy manages to cram it into, you know, a section of the chorus, which I think is one of the great things about Undeath, is that, you know, for me that's a fantastic ability to be able to get something as wordy and as kind of like tricky to pronounce as that, but make it sort of digestible and fitting with the riffs as well, and, you know, the drum patterns, like rhythm, melodies, all that sort of stuff. So one of the best things about this record is the songwriting, and I think repetition is a huge part of that. It's repetition of the lyrics so that you can kind of have a clearly distinguished chorus or verse, and then also repetition of certain riffs, certain patterns, but then changing that ever so slightly. And it's those dynamics where, like, Brandish the Blade is a great example of that, you know, where you kind of go through those different verses, but there's slight changes, little tweaks, which heighten that level of tension. But at the same time, everything is being repeated in a way that you can kind of latch onto. And given that death metal is pretty abrasive, you know, I think the speed at which you can kind of dig into this sort of album and how quickly it sort of attaches to you is quite disarming, actually. I was really kind of like, oh wow, I've given this maybe, I don't know, 2 spins through full, and there's songs that I'm already starting to grasp the melodies of, which I think is like honestly a stroke of genius. It's really, really cool to see that. And in terms of memorability as well, I think hooks are really, really important. You know, they've always been, I think, quite strong with Rise from the Grave and Legions, but this has more hooks than that dude in Final Destination 2.
Man with hooks. Man with hooks.
There is some new ground which is being sort of trod here as well. You know, you've got Suited for War, which I think kind of scratches that sort of Black Dahlia Murder, slight waltzy feel, a bit neoclassical in places. But then you've also got Disputatious Malignancy and Wailing Cadavers, I think it is, which is more of a thrash metal kind of vibe, which kind of keeps the energy up, which I really like. But this is Undeath. At the end of the day, they are here to flatten your fucking head. And they do that really, really well. The, you know, breakdown in Brandish the Blade is amazing. Bones clattering in the cave with that fucking real Cannibal Corpse kind of slamming riff where it's like... It just kind of reminded me of that weight that we had with like Scourge of Iron. That sort of level of heaviness. And then also Cramped Caskets has a really, really great part to it as well. So there's a huge amount you can kind of appreciate on here. Even when you look at the artwork, it's kind of self-referential. You know, the Legions is the sort of like cave in there. And then you've got zoomed out a little bit more, that sort of like... I don't know, lightning strike thing going on. But then you zoom out further and you find out that was all just in this person's head. And I really like the fact that it's on a white background. It's very different. It's very, I think, mature. I think it totally kind of caught me off guard, really. The runtime of the record is also important. It's 34 minutes, I think, basically half an hour, you know, enough to have you coming back. And when you hit Dead from Beyond and you hear that sort of marching, it kind of gets you back into the groove of things really quickly, which I think, again, enhances that kind of want for, okay, I'm going to have another bite of it. I'm going to give it another spin kind of thing. Production, absolutely brilliant. I think Mark Lewis totally smashed it out of the park. This is without a doubt the best sounding Undeath album. And it sounds more, it sounds bigger, you know, it just sounds even better than we've had previously, which... You know, I love the songwriting, but the production was a little bit of a niggly sort of point with me. More Insane is more in every capacity. It's more nuanced, it's more dynamic, it's more heavy, you know, it's more well thought out as well. And I think it's just becoming even more Undeath, which is the most important thing, that they're really kind of starting to hit their stride and find their sound, which really absolutely blew me away. Probably rate it maybe a 9 out of 10. If you're a fan of Undeath, it's the best Undeath album there's been. And if you're a fan of that sort of death metal vibe, then I think you'll really, really enjoy this. So thank you ever so much for watching this album review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments underneath me. And please do hit that like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And I'll see you guys very, very soon for another album review. Take care, my friends.